All right, Honors Algebra 2 and Algebra 2. Welcome to your Chapter 9 quiz review for 2020. Your game plan is the last video I'm going to make, I believe, for your Quarter 4 work. Again, folks, all the information that you need, I've emailed to you several times, okay? So look at that. Don't find yourself on that incomplete list, folks. You have 11 easy assignments, of which over 99% of the answers and work are provided to you. Here's what we're going to do. You've been doing a good job with your Chapter 8 work. Those of you that are turning it in, you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to write it on a separate sheet of paper. Numbers 1 through 8, given the equation of the circle, state the center and radius. All right. So, as we'll know in the game plan, these are very famous questions on the ACT as well. If you're going into pre-calculus, you have an entire chapter, again, dedicated to conic sections, which we're in right now. All right, so first off, the proper form of circle, standard form of a circle, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, where r is the radius, h and k represent the center. So to find the center, it's always the opposite of what's inside the parenthesis. You set x minus 3 equal to 0. So the center is 3, comma. You set y plus 2 equal to 0, negative 2. The center is positive 3, negative 2. If r squared is 16, then r is 4. And that is how, given the equation of a circle, you find the center and the radius. You won't do any graphing here. We'll just find the center and the radius, and then we'll do the opposite later on. X plus 1 squared, that means the center would be, set this equal to 0, negative 1, comma, y minus 5 squared, set this equal to 0. The y coordinate of the center would be 5. R squared is equal to 4. The radius is 2. Show all this work, write exactly what I have, and you'll be given that full credit. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 9. Set x minus 2 equal to 0, you get 2. Set y minus 4 equal to 0, you get 4. The center is 2, 4. R squared is 9, so the radius is 3. That's the name of the game there. X plus 5 squared plus y plus 7 squared is equal to 25. Set x plus 5 equal to 0, negative 5, comma. Set y plus 7 equal to 0, negative 7. R squared is 25. The radius is 5. Now on number 5, what is this? There is nothing with x. If there's nothing with x, then the x coordinate of the center is 0. Set y plus 4 equal to 0, you get negative 4. R squared is 36, so r is 6. On number 6 here, set x plus 1 equal to 0, y minus 1 equal to 0. R squared is 121, so the radius is 11. Your center is negative 1, positive 1 is always the opposite number. All right, and then finishing up 7 and 8, x plus 5 squared plus y plus 6 squared is equal to 64 is equal to 64. The center would be negative 5, negative 6. R squared is 64, r is 8. On this page here, number 8, set x minus 2 equal to 0. Nothing is that's with y, so the y coordinate of the center is 0. R squared is 100. The radius is 10. The center is 2, 0. All right. Next page, find the midpoints of line segment AB from geometry and the distance or the length of line segment AB. All right, these are pretty interesting questions as well. You'll have these again. This is a great chapter for those of us going into pre-calculus. You'll be doing a lot of this next year. So the midpoint is the middle, just the halfway point between those 2 points. So what you're going to do is you're going to average the x's and average the y's. You take the x's, so negative 2 plus 4, and you divide it by 2. If you have an 80 and 100 as test scores, your average or your midpoint of the two is 90. 80 plus 100 divided by 2. Negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2. Then you take your y's, 4 plus a negative 6 divided by 2. It's 2 over 2. It's negative 2 over 2. That is 1 comma negative 1. That is the midpoint, 1 comma negative 1. Now I show distance a little different. Again, you guys had this in a chapter in geometry. Distance is just a Pythagorean theorem. I travel 6 in the x direction. If I go from -2 to 4, I've traveled 6 in the x direction. If I go from 4 to -6, I've traveled 10 in the x direction. So I can just do a little Pythagorean theorem work. Distance squared is equal to my x distance. Again, distance from -2 to 4 means I traveled 6 in the x direction. Here's what we're after. Distance squared is equal to x squared plus y squared. Then in the y direction, from 4 to -6, I traveled 10 squared. Distance squared is equal to 36 plus 100. Distance squared is equal to 136. Take the square root. My distance is the square root of 136, which is 11 point something. But leave it as the square root of 136. That's perfect. Okay, so these aren't the easiest questions. We can do them. Midpoint, 2 plus a -5 divided by 2. Y coordinate, -1 plus 3 divided by 2. It's -3 over 2, comma 2 over 2. You can simplify 2 over 2. It's 1. Leave it as -3 over 2. No decimals here. Again, distance formula. Yes, it's got that complicated, the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. But that's essentially what we're doing, and we don't have a formula we need to memorize. It is just the Pythagorean theorem. Distance squared. So it's just like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's your c squared, a squared, b squared, c squared. You travel in the x direction from 2, and you don't have to deal with negatives here. From 2 to -5, you traveled 7 total. 2 miles in Illinois to 5 miles in Missouri means it took you 7 miles to get there. -1 to 3 is 4, a distance of 4. So distance squared is equal to 49 plus 16. Distance squared is 65. To find out actual distance, you take the square root of 65. I don't say I ran. My distance squared that I ran this morning was 49. Nope, that doesn't make sense. It's not a way we talk about distance. Instead, we would say the square root of 49, 7. So we say the square root of 65 on that one. This midpoint, I take my x's, I add them up, divide by 2. I take my y's, add them up, divide by 2. I get 1/2 comma -1/2. Again, show all that work exactly. Distance squared is equal to the x distance squared plus the y distance squared. The x distance that I travel, -6 to 7, that's a distance of 13. Square it, plus from 4 to -5, that's a distance of 9. Square it. Distance squared is 250. Take the square root of 250. Just under 16. Again, have all this work for that full, easy credit. Lastly, on number 12 here, my x values, -5 and 8. I'm just finding the middle of -5 and 8, which is -3 over 2. I'm just finding the middle of 2 and -3, which is -1/2. That's my midpoint. From -8 to 5, I traveled 13 in the x direction. From 2 to -3, I traveled 5 in the y directions. Distance squared is equal to 169 plus 25. Distance squared is 194. Take the square root of both sides. Square root of 194 is just below 14, but that is a great answer there. Again, pause this whenever you need to. I'm going to try to make this in one video. Now, numbers 13 through 21. Again, write out all the directions. Plenty of time to check your work. Given the equation of a conic section in standard form, name it. Is it a circle, hyperbola, or an ellipse? Okay, now you will get those in a game plan video coming soon. But what we just did on the first page, first off, a circle, both variables are squared, as they are here, but it doesn't equal 1, and there's a positive in between. This is what the equation of a circle looks like. Number 14, notice how it's set equal to 1. Both the hyperbola and the ellipse have standard form of their equations in standard forms. They're both set equal to 1. You're both dividing by either an a squared and a b squared, but the difference between the hyperbola and the ellipse is the ellipse has the plus in between. It kind of looks like a